Well guys, if you tuned in last time, you know the top 10 movies that I hate but everybody else seems to love. Well, now it's your revenge. These are the top 10 movies that I like, but everybody else seems to hate. Now something I want to emphasize before I start this list is very important. None of these films I think are great films. I don't love any of these films. But I thought they were okay. I thought they were decent films. I'm glad I saw them. I acknowledge that all of them have problems. There's no, like, perfect film in here that, oh, why can't anyone see the genius? It's nothing like that. But I'm glad I paid the money. I'm glad I saw them on the big screen. And I enjoyed them. So, like I said, if you didn't enjoy them, great. Doesn't say anything about you being a jerk or an idiot or anything like that. So, like I said, you heard my spiel in the last video, so these are the top 10 films that I enjoy, nobody else seems to. Number 10. Unbreakable. Now, of course, M. Night Shyamalan, I've made fun of him, everybody has, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot to make fun of in this movie, but the reason I like this movie, in all honesty, I think is for different reasons than probably M. Night Shyamalan had. I'm one of those people, I sort of get freaked out at the idea of, like, fate or destiny. I think that's kind of a scary idea. Not to say it can't be whatever comforting, but I think it's kind of creepy because, well, in this movie, for example, they set up, there's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this, by the way, they set up that this is a world with superheroes and villains, and you're either born a hero or you're born a villain. And I don't know if this movie sees that as a good thing. The ending has Samuel L. Jackson, we find out that he was meant to be the villain. And all his life he's had this tragic, horrible life, you know, and he has these fragile bones. And what's his reward? He gets thrown in jail. He's meant to be the bad guy. He's meant to be the other half, you know, the yin and yang, but he's the villain. You know, he's the bad guy, but at least he finally belongs. He has a place. And so it's this very strange, bittersweet ending. And I like the idea of a movie that's saying that maybe the idea of destiny and fate is not all it's cracked up to be. Because if someone's born just to be the bad guy, that's a fucked up plan, okay? That's a really creepy idea. And the ending is not a happy ending. It's this very, you don't know how to feel ending. And like I said, I don't know if that's what M. Night Shyamalan was going for. It could be, hey, he finally belongs, and what a good feeling, even though it's kind of disturbing. But I saw this movie and was sort of creeped out by it, and I'm one of the few people that really like the twist ending. So I like this film. I'll acknowledge there's a lot of things that don't work. I don't like, he did this weird thing where everybody's wearing either purple or green, and then the criminals are wearing a bright color. Wouldn't it make more sense to have the criminals wear the purple or the green, and everyone else wears normal colors? I don't know, that doesn't make sense. He has this weird thing with the upside down cameras, which again is obviously trying to say something, kind of whatever, hammered in, but nobody really knows what he's trying to say, so it's kind of pointless. It's really annoying when someone is using obvious, it's like obvious symbolism, but you don't know what it's supposed to symbolize, but it's obviously supposed to symbolize something, but it's not abstract enough or it's not specific enough, so it's kind of a mess. But I like Bruce Willis, I like Samuel L. Jackson, I like the mystery, I like finding out you don't know what's going on, and nobody starting this off could figure out what was going on, which I really like too. I think if I watch it again, I probably would get tired of those really slow talking dialogues, I think, after a while. Back then I really liked it because I like movies that move that way, I like movies that took their time. Maybe a little too slow, but I don't know, or maybe it still holds up, but bottom line, I like the story. I'm not a huge comic book guy. I just like the whole idea of destiny being a really creepy idea. I don't see a lot of movies that do that. They're always pro-destiny, pro-fate. And I'm not anti all that. I just like hearing from the other side. And whether or not he was going for that, I don't know, but it's interesting food for thought. So I enjoyed it. Number 9. Punch Drunk Love. Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the most interesting directors working today. He makes very interesting movies, and they're very odd in how they're told and how they're paced. And I think he is trying new things with how to tell a story. And essentially, this is just a basic romance. I mean, when you really get down to it, it's just a basic romance, but it's told in such an odd way, and in such a strange, uncomfortable way. But in a sense, that makes it the most effective because the role Adam Sandler plays, still my favorite Sandler movie. I mean, this is him at his best. It really does a good job. He's so uncomfortable and such a mess, and you're not entirely sure why. It's just this giant buildup of insecurity. And when he finally finds someone, you know, he can fall in love with and loves him, it's such a good feeling. And I will admit, the girlfriend, I'm forgetting her name. It is Emily Watson. Her coming on to him was a little sporadic, a little weird. I guess she was a little off too, but just the way she sort of gravitated towards him was a little odd. But the actual romance, once they were together, I thought was really nice. It was really sweet, but it is weird. It is very slow moving. It's, you know, you could argue there's a lot of symbolism in it as well, and it is definitely very strange and very out there and not your traditional comedy. But it leaves an impact, and every time I think of this movie, I just think of the overall feeling it gave me as sort of this mix of really uncomfortable but also really sweet and loving, and I love that mix. That's such a strange mix, especially for an Adam Sandler movie. So I'm glad Adam Sandler took a chance and did this film. Every once in a while he tries to do a more serious film. He's not bad. I mean, he's really not a bad dramatic actor if you give him the right part. I don't see him doing Shakespeare or anything, but he's pretty decent. You know, he's better than Jim Carrey acting, or I don't know, whoever else does serious roles. But I thought he did a very good job, and I like seeing him in dramatic roles. I like this film, even though it was very odd in how it moved. But I like that. I like stranger films. I like slower films, if they keep your interest. And this film kept my interest because I just did not know where it was going. It's not one of those films where I say, oh, I know what's going to happen. You have no idea what's going to happen. So, very basic. I don't know, I thought it was fun. Number 8. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. This is back when Disney was trying to go a different direction with their animation department, and I'll admit I would have liked it if they'd gone all the way, if they went for a straightforward, grown-up action film, but they're still trying to get the, you know, the stuff for little kids, and it's okay, it's decent, but it would have been nice to see a really hardcore, you know, like Indiana Jones action adventure without so many kid jokes thrown in. But what I like about it, really, is I like these characters. I like the mole guy. I like the what was it, the teenage girl who was a boxer. I like the guy with the explosives. They're all very strange characters, but you really grow to like them and enjoy what they're doing. And I like the actual culture they sort of created of Atlantis. It was very different looking. It was like Indiana Jones meets sort of an alien-ish technology, not including Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I liked it. I liked learning about this world. I liked seeing the weird creatures and the technology and the things they ride. What I didn't like is the same thing a lot of people didn't like. I didn't enjoy the villain. I didn't enjoy that it was just a treasure hunt. It actually seemed very out of character once a lot of the main guys suddenly turned bad. You know, of course they turned good again, but I mean, when they suddenly turned into bad guys, it's like, where'd this come from? And yeah, by the end, what they're fighting for seemed very phoned in. I wish they could have had something stronger they could have been fighting for outside of just, this is a treasure hunt. No, come on, you guys are gonna be rich either way, okay? I mean, just, you don't need to destroy the civilization or whatever the half-baked plan was. So, I don't like that aspect. I think the last third, what they were fighting for was really weak. But I thought everything else was decent. I thought it was interesting. It was a very fascinating movie. I liked this culture. I liked the technology. It felt very Indiana Jones-like to me, or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I sort of like that stuff. I like old school, but still futuristic technology. I sort of like that mix. Like, what if technology sort of went in another direction than the direction it went with that we chose? You know, what if it sort of went a little bit more steampunk or something like that? So I enjoy it. Again, not perfect. Definitely not perfect. But especially on the big screen. It's if you have like a really big ass TV or a great sound system, watch this movie on the big screen because it looks awesome. That might be one I want to get on Blu-ray. If it is on Blu-ray, I'm sure it is. If not, put it on Blu-ray because it looks great. So very underrated. I think a lot of people don't like it because of that third act, because of the of what they're ultimately trying to get out of it, which is weak. It's really weak. But I really like this movie. I see more of the problems now, but I really enjoyed it back then. I think it holds up well enough. It's sometimes a little too childish, but I think it works. Number 7. Hamcock. Again, not a perfect movie. It has problems, but it is also a very different look at superheroes. It's not a straight-up comedy. It's not a straight-up superhero film. That's part of the problem that people had. They thought it was a little too jumbled. It didn't know what it wanted to be. On some level, I agree, but on another level, I think that took in a very interesting direction. It's what if a superhero really did exist, but he was very unlikable, he was a drunk, there's only one of him, which is very interesting. Usually it's a world where a ton of superheroes live if you're going to have sort of this comedic take on it. But no, there's only one of him, supposedly. Spoilers. But I like the fact that he's not the traditional image. I love that he has to get a PR guy. I love that he has to go to jail. This is a very different take on it, and I know the problem people had is that halfway through suddenly it becomes more the traditional superhero movie, or even sort of a weird, even beyond a superhero movie, sort of like it goes into like the history of this character, but not entirely. And it seems like a film that's sort of leaving it open for a sequel, and it's a shame that not too many people liked it, because I would have liked to have seen a sequel. I would like to have seen more of the history of this character, or characters, as we find out. And I would have liked to have seen it explored a little bit more. What I didn't like how there's sort of this semi-romance going on between Will Smith and this other character, and they're starting to explore it. You don't know where it's going to go. And at the end, it's just sort of like a 2-minute, oh, okay, she's over there and he's doing his thing, whatever. It's like, no, there's got to be more than that. You built that up and you made that really interesting, and you just sort of, whatever, the sequel, figure it out in the sequel. That was lame. But I like Will Smith. I like Theron, was good, and I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was sort of a cool take on the superhero genre. I would have liked to seen it developed a little bit more, but for what I got, I was entertained, and I thought it was cool. Number 6. The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. Now, just gonna say straight up right now, I only read one Narnia book, and that was the first one. Actually, I didn't even know there were more Narnia books after the first one. When the movie came out, that's when I found out there was more. I'm like, there was more? I only thought it was just one. It seemed so self-contained. So, I didn't know there was more. So, going into this movie, I didn't read the book. And I'm finding out more and more, people who didn't read the book usually like the movie. People who have read the book hate the movie. And that's really fascinating, because I did talk to people about what was left out and what they added. To me, it seems like the stuff they added was pretty interesting. I like that the oldest boy suddenly, he starts to get a little cocky. I like it. He becomes too overconfident. I really like the temptation of the White Witch. I thought that was very clever. Very well handled. And I thought it did get darker, it did get more menacing, and it got a little bit more political. And I like that, I like anything that sort of takes that fairy tale aspect as sort of, it grows it up a little bit. It sort of makes it a little bit more tougher and more grown up, but not too extreme like the Harry Potter movies, where, if you're a kid reading Harry Potter, oh yay, wizards, yay! And then if you're reading them all in a row and you get to the last book, Jesus! It's not like that. It's intense, but it's not, too graphic. It's not too much. It's about the right amount. I don't know where the other books go. Well, I sort of do. People have been sort of spoiling the books for me, but I don't care. I know they do get a little bit more, more adult and more, it certainly takes more risk, but for the film itself, imagine you never read the book and you saw that movie. It's a decent movie. I was really getting into it. I got into the characters a lot more. I like that the youngest girl could see Aslan, but nobody else could. I think there's a lot of challenges of faith in there, and I like it when, whatever, the real world sort of sets in a little bit more, well, real Narnia world, whatever, I know it's fictional, but I like that sort of sets in a little more and everything's not as easy as it used to be. The fight scenes are great. I love the villain. The Caspian kid, you know, was fine, although I heard he was like a lot younger in the book. That was one of the big complaints. I think the only thing that may have disturbed me, I don't know if it was in the books, is when the trees are attacking. Yeah, we've all seen this, haven't we? You know, this is from Lord of the Rings. But again, what I liked about that, even though it was from Lord of the Rings, when I read The Two Towers, was it Two Towers? Yeah, The Two Towers had the big attack. And the trees are attacking. I imagined them moving more like they did in Narnia. I didn't imagine that they had legs and arms. I imagined that it was sort of more, you know, octopusy, you know, the roots go and grab people. So I liked seeing that. I thought that was pretty cool. But again, yeah, it's from Lord of the Rings. Even if it is in the book, I know C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends, so whatever, I guess it's cool. I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it got more suspenseful, it got darker, it got tougher, but still had that sense of magic. It had new things in it. I love whatever the hell that giant water thing that came out and just headbutted that guy. That was awesome. So, I don't know, I really liked it, maybe even more than the first one. But again, I'm a minority on this. Maybe because I didn't read the book. I was actually watching it with someone else who didn't like the first movie. He was watching the second one, like, really getting into it. I said, did you read the books? No. So, maybe people who haven't read the books would like it more. I don't know. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a really cool movie, but what do I know? Number 5. Star Trek Nemesis. Now, of course, if I knew this was going to be the last Star Trek Next Generation movie, I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, hey, come on, give us something better than this. This is really overblown. But just as a Star Trek movie, it's not that bad. Especially considering how bad a lot of the other Star Trek movies got. And there's things I really enjoy about this. I enjoy the idea of your older self versus your younger self, and if you grew up in a different environment, would you be different? Do you have the, you know, the genetics or the willpower to, you know, stay away from this path, or would you go along this path no matter what? The nature versus nurture. And that was very interesting, and I really liked, the best stuff is when Picard is talking with his younger self and they're trying to learn from each other. That's great stuff, and that's really complex and really interesting. It does get a little lost in sort of these overblown action sequences that are really over the top, even by Star Trek standards. But at the same time, you did get to see some cool things. Like, I liked seeing the ships actually crash into each other. There's a scene where, like, the dome, like, slides into the other ship, which is fucking nuts in terms of Star Trek, but it looked great, and I thought it was really cool. Some things did go a little too far. I think there's a Data jump from one ship to another. That's stupid. There's a scene where a car jumps into a spaceship. That was stupid. So a lot of the action scenes are too far and over the top, but it also gave us some stuff we really wanted to see. I like that, what was it, Riker and Troy, they finally get married. I like seeing Whoopi Goldberg again in the movies. I think even Wesley was in there. And it was kind of cool seeing all these characters together again. But yeah, there are problems. It's another, they want to go to Earth, destroy everything. Star Trek is one of the few sci-fi movies and shows where actually I don't mind the political talk. It's not like Star Wars, where that's sort of sci-fi fantasy. This is very much, hey, what if this future was real? You know, there would be political talks, there would sort of be these debates. And I would have liked a little bit more of that in this Star Trek, instead of going for so much action. For the stuff that's in it, though, despite how stupid it can get really stupid, the stuff that works, I think, really works. And a lot of that comes to the two Picards. I like the fact there's two Datas, also. I found that interesting. But like everyone else, I was pissed off that it wasn't Lore. Oh my god, I'm such a Star Trek geek right now. But I was pissed off that it wasn't Lore as sort of this, you know, mentally off Data, which I know they're going for it at the end. It's like he's a replacement, it could come back again, sort of live through him, all that good stuff. Interesting, not really that developed. But I like that. I sort of liked what it was starting to deal with. I like what it did with Picard. I would like to see a little bit more of that with Data, maybe. So, as a last film, it's not a good last, you know, Next Generation film. If that was going to be the last one, it's like, come on, you can do better than that. But it's decent. I'm glad I saw it. It had some good action, some good effects. And not totally devoid of character. So, unlike some of the other Star Trek movies, which I think the only Star Trek movie that had nothing good in it, like, at all, was Insurrection, in my opinion. Not because it's like, it has the worst moments, it's just totally forgettable. So, but every Star Trek movie has something good in it, something that made you glad to see it. And that's pretty cool. So, I think Nemesis had... There was more to it than I think some people gave credit for, but it just gets so shadowed by those over-the-top action sequences and some of the dumber moments that I think people just sort of forget it. But watch it again. There's some good stuff in there, I think. Number 4. The Cable Guy. This is said to be the movie that almost destroyed Jim Carrey's career, which is so ironic because it wasn't a bomb, it did okay, but it was so out of character what Jim Carrey, I guess, normally does, or the tone was. It was a much darker tone. It was directed by Ben Stiller. That was a movie that almost destroyed his directing career. Thank God he came back with Tropic Thunder, and actually Zoolander's pretty funny too. But so many people hate how dark it is and sort of how semi-mean-spirited it is. Especially compared to comedies today, it's not that bad. And I think the only thing that's sort of hard to stomach with is Jim Carrey's acting sometimes can get a little grating, but he also managed to capture the annoyance of some of these people. I think everybody has had a friend like this. If you don't like this movie, you have not had a friend like this. This is the kind of friend that just does not get the idea, will not leave you alone, will not give you your space, is usually very socially awkward, and, you know, God help them, I'm sure they're great people, but this is... For people that have had this friend, this is sort of what we think might be going on, that they might be sitting at home just calling over and over, and maybe a spider's crawling across their face, and it just... It cracks me up. And I think there's a scene where he's talking on the phone, and like I said, there's a spider that crawls across his face, and people might have been thinking, wow, that's really creepy, that's really dark. I thought that was really funny. I think that was meant to be funny. You know, it's just so over the top, and I don't know, I guess I've sort of known people like this. I know other people have, and I think, horrible to say, after I've gotten the internet fame, I think I've known more people like this, but it's really, I thought it really captured just how creepy some of these people can be, and just how over the top our imagination can go with us. Now, of course, in this movie, he really is doing all this weird stuff, but it's a comedy, it's an over-the-top comedy, and for me, and I think a lot of people that had or have friends like this, it's fun to think maybe this is what's going on in their head, and it's total self-indulgence, it's not fair, but it's a release, okay? It's a release to think, maybe they are doing all this weird, creepy stuff. So, I liked it. I thought the satire with Ben Stiller, with the medieval times, and Janine Garofalo as the waitress, that was great. The trial with the two boys from the sitcom, that could be a movie itself. That was hilarious. Jim Carrey doing the Don't You Need Somebody to Love, I thought was great. I don't know, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's dark, but it's not the darkest comedy out there. And actually, I think Jim Carrey's done darker comedies, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and such, so I really had fun with it, and I actually think it's a very funny comedy. Number 3. Matrix Reloaded. Now, let me make one thing perfectly clear. I don't like any of the Matrix movies. I don't think any of them are technically good movies. But, out of all of them, the one I dislike the least is the second one. And the second one was the only one where I thought, wow, this is really doing some big, awesome stuff. This is really having fun with itself. The first film had that bullet time, great. It had that idea about, hey, what if this world is not our world and it's all a dream or constructed? it's not the first time somebody's thought of that, guys. I think that's what bothers me. It's like, The Matrix blew my mind. This isn't the first time it's been done. It's been done lots of, there's sci-fi stories, short stories, books leading back to like the Stone Age that have done this. There's episodes of Star Trek that have done this. You know, it's Twilight Zone, for God's sake, you know, have done this. So I guess I was a little bothered that it got as big recognition as it did and for being so revolutionary. And it's, if you watch it now, it's so dated. The long black coats, you know, it looks like goth kids. And what, I love how it's like they're supposed to blend into their environment. Who the fuck wears long black coats and leather and sunglasses at night? Who dresses like that? Fail, you're not blending in at all. I love the fact that the Matrix is trying to keep this a secret as well, whatever the computers, yet they're jumping on cars, flipping them over and disappearing and transporting. This is the worst kept secret in the world. But, I like this movie. The second one I like mainly because the big complaint everybody has is that, well, there's no character to it, you know, there's no development at all. Well, I hated the characters in the first film. I thought they were bland. I thought they were boring. All the second film is action and philosophy. I like action and philosophy, so I enjoy this film. Like I said, I can't say it's good, but there's a lot of things that are really good and really hold up. The action scenes are incredible. They're starting to look a little fake now, but like the highway chase, really, really good stuff. The fight with all the Smiths, the Agent Smiths, I think, see, they really should say that for the last movie, because I think they played their trump card too early. That would have been a good final battle. What's the last battle? Like, they're all watching, and he fights the one. Makes no sense. But that would have been a good final battle if he was just fighting a bajillion of them. And, you know, the philosophy was fun when they're talking about it. It did seem like that action philosophy, action philosophy. I don't mind because I didn't like the characters. In the first film, it seemed very much the first half, talk. What is the Matrix? This is the Matrix, this is the Matrix. Second half, fight, action, throw stuff, punch. And I don't think it was paced very well. It's sort of like Kill Bill, actually, except in reverse. First half is like nothing but talk, second half, nothing but action. And you need to pace it out. I thought the second one was a little bit better paced out. Did I understand what that guy was saying when he's in that big computer room? No. You know, whatever, you are the subject, the first of many, the first of blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the fuck he's saying like everyone else. I didn't care. I thought the big reveal, like everyone else, was going to be that there's a Matrix inside the Matrix. Would have been awesome. No. Though I like the idea that to kill the virus, he has to sort of become the virus. He has to, whatever, be absorbed by it. I thought that was kind of clever, but I digress. The second film, I thought, had good action, had some good philosophy. I didn't give a crap about the characters, but I did in the first one anyway, so the least I can say of them, I can see of them, the better. I like Hugo Weaving as the bad guy. He's a lot of fun. There's much more of him in the second one, so I enjoy that. Third one was shit. I mean, just totally forgettable. I don't remember a thing about it, you know, like I say, except how it ended, but... and the first one, I think, is, a good idea. The only thing I remember that was really clever about the first one was when the kid says you have to realize the spoon isn't there. That was very clever. That's you can play around a lot with that in terms of philosophy. But everything else I thought was very textbook and very seen it before. But the second one I thought was doing a lot of really cool, really new things, even more than the first one, oddly enough. And I guess people couldn't get into it because I guess they really did like the characters in the first one. They wanted to see a more interesting story, and I guess it was just whatever, fighting and philosophy. I understand that. I guess I just don't see why people love the first one so much. I sort of do. But the second one was the one that was the most fun for me, because like I said, I don't care about the story. I don't care about the characters. It's sort of like when I play a video game. I just want to blow shit up and see some pretty visuals. That's what I got in the second one, so I enjoyed it. Number 2. Spider-Man 3. Alright, y'all saw my top 11 dumbest Spider-Man moments, so you know that there's a lot of things to hate about Spider-Man 3. But you also know I like the movie, and you're probably wondering, what the hell do you like about Spider-Man 3? Well, I'll tell you exactly what I like. The big thing for me was this was the first time I actually gave a crap about the romance. In the last two films, it seemed very forced, very awkward, very, oh, they're talking, they're sharing moments, yay. You know, and then, oh, will they get together, will they want, yeah, we know they will. Now that they're together, that's where the interesting stuff starts. I like that it's sort of a switch around. Now Mary Jane is getting crapped on, now Peter is getting all the glory, and I like that sort of goes to his head, and you can understand he doesn't get this recognition that much. He's finally being praised for his good deeds, and he lets it go to his head, and he oversteps his bounds. I like that. I thought that was very realistic for a Spider-Man movie, but the other thing that I really like is that Mary Jane finally, is starting to become this three-dimensional character, and she has problems too. And nobody in this relationship was just right or wrong. It's that she's having these problems. She needs someone there to support her. Like she's been there to help support him, and he can't be there. And that is a typical relationship problem, that someone needs support and the other person can't be there. There's just too much going on. And it's the first time I felt like, yeah, I'm concerned. I want to see them stay together, but these are real issues. Okay, nobody goes out dressed like a spider and stops crime, but I mean, being occupied with something else. And I thought they were addressing that really well. And like I said, Peter gets carried away with himself. He starts to sort of hit on that Gwen Stacy chick. And like I said, he's got to ask her to marry him. So in his mind, it's like, I'm gonna ask her to marry me. This Gwen person's nothing. Yeah, she's pretty, but whatever. And I like that. I like that he's so confident. He thinks that she's on the same level, that she is just as confident as he is. And she's not. And again, this is a very typical relationship problem. I found that all very interesting. The other thing I like is that I like where they were starting to go with the costume, taking over his personality and making him darker. I like that. I thought that was a cool setup. I like Harry forgetting his memory. I like, trying to become friends again. I like him trying to regain his memory and how they sort of want him to get it back, but they also want to keep it separate. Now here's the big thing. When I saw this movie, I saw it twice, and there is always 3 moments in the movie that everybody gasps at. Everybody goes, oh! The one is when Peter almost loses the ring fighting Harry. Another is when Mary Jane kisses Harry. And then the other is when Peter hits Mary Jane. Every time I saw that movie, everybody went, oh! Now, if a movie makes an audience gasp 3 times, it's doing something right. It has people invested. For me, where the movie starts to go downhill is as soon as Harry gets his memory back. That's when the plot holes start. That's when things don't make sense. That's when it becomes really forced and contrived. As I said before, he forces Mary Jane to break up with Peter. Why doesn't she just tell him that Harry has his memory back, go beat him up? He's Spider-Man. He goes and does that anyway. And even after that, how come she never comes forward with it? How come, why does he turn so goofy and silly when he has the black outfit on? I know that was forced. Why wasn't there more Venom? And here's another really big problem. At the very end, he talks with the Sandman. I like the story behind the Sandman, by the way. I like that they made him very interesting. I like the daughter thing. I like why he's a criminal, he's trying to save his daughter. I thought that was very interesting. And it wasn't totally half-assed or anything. They do try to show the development. They do a lot of stuff without having to talk about it all the time, which I like. The second one didn't do that one as much. The second one was a lot of talking. Here they can just show it. I like when he just sits down and looks at his daughter. That was effective. But at the end, after he turns into the monster, goes, brrr, he can't speak English anymore, he talks to Peter Parker and he says what really happened with the uncle and I didn't mean to do it and blah, blah, blah. Parker says, I forgive you. Big scene, and the Sandman says, all that matters now is my daughter, and he blows away in the wind. Where the fuck is he going? Is he gonna rob another bank? Are they just gonna fight again? What happens with his daughter? What's the resolution there? I got really invested in the daughter. How come we never know what happens? So that really annoyed me. And the other thing that annoyed me is that at the very end, with every Spider-Man movie, you sort of feel he's growing up a bit. And with this one, they went through the relationship problems, but I didn't feel like anything happened that brought them closer. They were going through the problems, that's good. And the idea is that you have to work your way through it to grow more, but I don't feel they ever did. What, they saves her from a building again? That fixes everything? I didn't get that. So that I sort of felt was a step backwards, that nothing's really evolved. It's like they started to confront these questions, but they never went all the way through with it, so that disappointed me. But the stuff that's good in this movie, oh my god. I forgot, the scene where the Sandman comes to life for the first time. Unbelievable. Never seen a scene like that. I mean, that was like a short film. The music, the imagery, the visuals, not one word is said, and it's just this incredible moment. I'm just always shocked when people say, shit, nothing good in it. That moment alone should have like won its own little mini Oscar. I mean, that was just unbelievable. And I guess that's why I'm so shocked when people say they don't like it, because yeah, the stupid moments are really stupid, and maybe Raimi just did overshoot it with what he could get away with, but God, the moments that are good are just phenomenal. So it's probably just being an optimist, because as you can see, I really do see the bad moments as well, but the moments that are good, I think are just so good. So, like I said, there's good moments, bad moments. I personally think the good moments trump the bad moments. And the #1 movie that I like, but everyone else seems to hate is X-Men III. Yeah, another 3 movie, isn't it? Something about the second sequel always turns people off. Maybe people are tired of it, I don't know. But I like this film, though, again, problems, big problems. But what I enjoy, I guess I'll acknowledge, is sort of a very selfish nature. I enjoyed seeing Kelsey Grammer as Beast. When he was on screen, I'm like, there he is. That's Beast. Totally realized. Perfect actor. Looks perfect. Awesome. It was the same feeling I got when I saw Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It's like, there he is, one of my childhood icons on the screen. Or when I saw Michael Keaton as Batman, it's like, no, that's not an actor playing Batman. That's Batman. It was the same thing when I saw Beast, and it just gave me chills. It was cool to see him jump around and beat the shit out of people, but still be an intellectual. Loved it. But there's other stuff I really like. It was the first X-Men movie where I thought shit was finally happening. And the first film you can understand because it's set up, it's establishing. And the second film, though I like it okay, it was just moving so slowly and still giving you, it's like the Harry Potter movies. It's like we'll give you a tablet of information and the rest is just sort of filler. I like the fact this is a movie where finally shit was getting done. Characters were dying, you know, people were drawing lines in the sand and choosing sides, and I like that. There's been so much buildup for it in these movies, and this is the movie that finally gave it. But again, it doesn't amount to much. I think that's my biggest problem, is that the whole movie is sort of build-up and things are happening, but what it ultimately comes out to is not very satisfying. Bringing Jean Grey back. Great. Second film, you saw the Firebird, you saw the Phoenix. Awesome, can't wait for it. What, she's just nuts? She's just a schizo? Here's the thing, here's what I thought. I didn't need to see, whatever, because in the comic it's like, aliens come down. It was a big alien thing. I didn't need to see that. What I thought they were going to do, I thought that with, you know, mutants are the next evolution of man. Got it. I thought maybe she was going to be the next evolution of mutant. Like, nobody else exists. Like, you know, there's always that jump, and then one of them got this even bigger jump. And I thought that would have been interesting, but no, she's just, whatever, a class 5, and there's a couple of them that exist. And it seemed kind of pointless to bring her back just to kill her again. Why'd you bring her back? Anyway, but it was cool to see. It was still cool to see the Phoenix do what the Phoenix does. You know, the eyes glow, the sort of things fly up, and it looks fiery. I wish they could have done something fire-related. That's why show the Firebird if you're not going to have it. That was lame. But to see the house rise up and to see Xavier rise up and just her blowing the shit out of everything, I mean, I thought was really cool. And I've always wanted to see the Phoenix on the big screen, and I thought it was pretty cool. Not entirely satisfied, but pretty damn close. Could have been a lot worse. I like how this is the first time the action scenes were feeling... It's the first X movie that felt epic. It felt huge. Like, hey, shit is really mattering here. And again, with the first film, you're setting it up. Got it. With the second film, Jean died. Oh no. You know, this is the first time where you felt like this is a good dilemma. This is good... you know, this is a good argument to have. If this cure really did exist, you know, would you take it? Would it be ethical to take it? And it took chances. It had Rogue go, and she changed. Magneto is now changed, apparently, maybe not. All these characters are getting killed But the characters I don't care for that much, so I didn't mind too much. Like I said, it's sort of a selfish reason. You know, never cared much for Cyclops, I didn't care to see him go. Xavier was sad, but whatever, didn't care to see him go. Jean, I never cared that much for, didn't care seeing her go. So, but it's like things were happening. It's finally like, yes, big shit is adding up. But in the end, what did it amount to? It didn't really amount to anything. No clear definition was made. Well, maybe a little bit. Rogue getting her powers taken away, I thought was very... That was a big risk, and I thought it did pay off. I thought that was very clever. That it's like, hey, we're not gonna puss out and say, hey, this side is right, or it's ambiguous, whatever. It's sort of, people are just gonna see what they see, and people are just gonna make their choices, and it sort of has to be respected. You know, you have to see it from their side, and I like that. I love it when, what was it, the Iceman, whatever, says, you know, that this isn't what I wanted. She said, this is what I wanted. I thought that really set it up pretty well, that people are just gonna have their opinions, and we just got to, you know, respect/understand it. With that said, a lot of things I don't like. What's the point of Archangel? No reason. You had this opening with him as a kid. Why have that if he's not a big character? Wolverine, no more is explained about his backstory. Again, killing Jean at the end. Why? Why was she back? But again, it was nice to see Magneto is finally turning into a real bad guy. It's not super... The first film, you're almost sort of like, yeah, I can see that, yeah. You know, you sort of sympathize with him, and the only reason, you know, he's the bad guy is because there's an error in the plan. You know, that the machine kills people. Aside from that, it's not a bad plan. Yeah, it's forcing this on people, and that's not right, but it's not that evil. Second film, he started to get a little evil with trying to destroy the people. Okay, that's turning into a bad guy. And then third film, he's the badass. He's the villain. This is Magneto. This is the Magneto I was waiting for. I don't know, and none of these films, none of the X-Men films I think are great films, but I do enjoy them. I think all of them are okay. But yeah, the third one was the first film where I just felt like shit was being done, shit was happening. I wish it could have had a more satisfying conclusion, but even then, I don't think it was terrible. I like, did this drug work? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, you know. And I thought it took, for an X-Men movie, I thought it took a lot of risks. And a lot of people just felt they didn't pay off. I sort of thought they did. I thought some of the choices they made were very weak and they weren't very good, but it finally felt like the X-Men movie I wanted to see. The big X-Men movie. You know, not the, hey, we're setting it up. No, this is the big shit. The bridge is being moved. You know, Magneto takes a truck, goes shoom, and tosses it aside. And, you know, this is what I was waiting for. So, Juggernaut, holy fuck, was he awesome. So, I was very happy to see a lot of these characters and a lot of these action scenes, and I like the story, I like the dilemma. I thought it was more realistic to nowadays how prejudice is being dealt with. I thought with the first film, it's sort of, yeah, we hate them. Again, seen that a million times. I like how this one, mutants are a little bit more accepted. I like how Beast is on, you know, whatever, he was on some sort of political board or something, he was an advisor. And I like how there's this big dilemma whether or not people should take this choice or not. And it just seems a little bit more where we are now. It's like these people are more accepting of, you know, homosexuals and so forth, and people of different cultures. We're more accepting. Of course, you're always gonna get the a-hole that's like, fuck them. But for the most part, we're much more accepting. And I like the fact that this movie sort of acknowledges that. It's not like we're going back to whatever, like the 50s or something like that, where prejudice was just A-okay. You know, I think people are more accepting. They at least want to be more accepting. That they want to be more open. So I like the fact this movie did sort of take that level. It wasn't the generic, we hate mutants. Well, now it's, you know, it's more accepted. Now it's, what do we do? What are the right choices? And I enjoyed it. I see the problems, but I really enjoyed it. I like watching it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a good action flick. It raises good questions. The characters are decent. Has problems. Like I said, I don't like the way it all resolves itself, but I thought it was better than Wolverine. So, folks, those are the top 10 movies that I like. Everyone else seems to hate. hopefully you can see that these movies and what I think of them, it doesn't say anything like, hey, you're a terrible person, you're a great person. It's just opinion, it's just how you explain it. That really was the purpose of these two videos. If you like a movie that nobody else likes, enjoy it. If you hate a movie everyone else loves, hate it. It's fine. You know, if you can explain it, I think if you can have people understand why you don't like something, that's a very good way of being more open and having them sort of understand, hey, this isn't like a war, you know, over what's good and what's crap. So I hope maybe this, you know, will help you out. And hey, leave some of the other movies in the comments. Tell me movies that everyone disagrees with you on, that just films that you enjoy everyone else hates or you hate everyone else enjoys. And explain why. I think that's the biggie. If you write something like, anyone who likes XMen III is an a-hole or something, that's troll. I mean, you know, to do something that explains why this film meant something to you. Because you can't stop somebody from, you know, having a film mean something to you or having a film offend you. You know, all you can do is hear their side and see if that also affects you as well. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun talking about this. Everybody, take care.